Alright, this video is going to be about the increasing cost of living in Tacoma. Now, of course, you know, I've done videos that talked a lot about Seattle and how expensive it is and the growth of Seattle, which is a little over 3% growth. And Tacoma doesn't have it that high just yet. We're at 2%, I think, which if you look at the national average for most places, it's like at 1%, 1.5%. King County as a whole, so that's talking suburbs of King County, is at like that 1%. So to put it into perspective, Tacoma's growing twice as fast as places like Federal Way and Burey and places like that. But Seattle is growing like 3.5 times faster. So what that basically means is that basically the entire area, because of the high growth rate in terms of people moving in, the cost is going up all over the place. Tacoma was the place, and I say was kind of loosely here, and I'll explain it. Tacoma was the place where you could kind of go to and live and rent and buy a home, and it would not be such a sticker shock in terms of the price. Seattle will always be a place where it's expensive. It's at a point of no return. Really, the entire area is at that point. But out of the big three, Seattle, Bellevue, and Tacoma, Tacoma remained the most affordable and still is of those three. Bellevue's expensive, Mercer Island's expensive, Seattle, Redmond, all of those places are expensive. If you look at a map, you go to any of these real estate websites, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. It's just very expensive. You can find things that are in the 100s down this way, but you're going to have to invest a lot of money into them, and you're going to spend a lot of time, heartache, and pain, and you're going to have to probably put a lot of your own sweat equity into it to begin with. That's kind of the situation, and some people don't mind that. But to put it in perspective, we've been in this home for 2 months, and based on what estimates you look at, one Redfin, which is kind of off by far, claims that we've gained $75,000 in the house in 2 months. There's no way. It's not possible. The other one, Zillow, says that we've gained about $18,000 in 2 months. That's more realistic, but still, it seems kind of high. Now, that's not counting improvements that have been made to the house. That's not counting the developments, the 2 houses that have went up, which are brand new. It's not counting any of that. It's just saying, based on the general area, based on trends, this is what we can kind of estimate the house at being. So that can give you an idea. If this house were to be sold today, it would be probably $18,000 to $20,000, not counting improvements, $18,000 to $20,000 more than what we paid for it, versus if they took it off the market back in April. So what that translates to is it pushes people further and further and further out. The average price of the homes are now starting to go up, and I mentioned the amounts to give you kind of an idea as to what to expect. If a house in 2 months can go from $0 to $18,000 in 2 months, that can give you an idea of what's going on for the entire area. Some areas it's even a bigger jump. Some areas it's not as much. It really depends on a lot of different factors, but the problem is that there is such a low supply, and I've said this over and over again. There's such a low supply of houses that there's really not much that anyone can do to kind of stem the tide. The big issue for Tacoma is, unlike Seattle, is not the infrastructural issues. Tacoma has built up its highway and road infrastructure pretty well. The biggest issue for Tacoma is housing stock. Seattle obviously has that problem too, but the difference is that developers are all over Seattle and they're building huge towers everywhere. And the reason why they're not doing it here in Tacoma is the land prices are cheaper than they are in Seattle by far. But the cost to do work is the same. So the cost for us to put the chimney on the house will be no different than if I put a chimney on a house in Seattle. The prices are going to be the same for the same type of work. And if I were to build a house here, the cost to build a house is going to be the same as it would be in Seattle. The region's not far enough. Tacoma's not far enough from Seattle to really be such a drastic difference. So what that means is developers would basically build a home for the same price. I don't know if you can see me good enough. There you go. There you go. Developers would basically end up building a property for the same amount that they would in Seattle, but they would have to charge much less as far as rents go or what have you. So private home development is kind of doing okay whenever they can find land. Bigger development projects for condos, like, you know, large-scale condo projects and apartments, not so much, because there's not enough in it for developers at this point in Tacoma to do it. That's changing drastically. That's changing by the day. But as soon as the rent prices get kind of more in line with Seattle by a few $100s, then, you know, you could definitely do it. Sorry, that was the neighbor's kid, and our kid's just bugging. But there's nothing in it for developers at this point to really ramp up and start building here in Tacoma. So as a result, that's not happening. Now there are some mid-rises that are going up, quite a few. There's about maybe a half a dozen that I'm aware of that's being developed. And I'm talking mid-rise, I'm talking at least 6 stories. There's quite a few of those that are actually going up in and around downtown, that type of thing, which is pretty much where they're going to focus their energy on first. When it comes to houses, you do see a lot of, and just down the street and over some, you do see a lot of condos that are going up. Don't know what the price of them are going to be. Right now, rental prices in this area are holding stable, to be honest with you. And what I mean by that is there's not this huge crazy jump, you know, where it's $1,100 today and the next month it went up to $1,300 or $1,400. Nothing crazy like that. I mean, if you look at where we left from, the rent jumped up by $250 or $350, something like that. It's insane. So it's not like that. You know, you can still find a house here and pay $1,400 a month for a 3-bedroom house. You're never going to find anything in Seattle for $1,400. It's just not going to happen. But you can definitely find that down here. As prices go up, that's going to change. So let's say no one rents that house out, which is right over here. No one rents that house out. I guarantee you next month, sometime next month, that price will probably go up. Just based on the fact that people can do it. They can charge that. To see such a huge jump in a short amount of time is kind of scary. Not for me. I think that's, you know, I mean, hey, I don't mind the house values going up. But for people who are new to the market, new to the area, that's a problem. Most of this is driving up mainly due to Seattle. People in Seattle looking for a place to move to. There's a lot of people down here from the 206 area code, which is Seattle. And then there's a lot of people from other places, transplants that come in, who are also driving that price up. You have those two issues, because now people don't necessarily look at Seattle as much to move to. You know, most of the questions I get are actually from people wanting to know about Tacoma more so. Seattle is just way out of the reach for a lot of people at this point, and probably for the future. Tacoma right now is still definitely possible, but it's really becoming a very difficult place to actually get your foot in the door. It's not so much that the house price, let's say this house over here was $300,000. It's not so much that it's the $300,000 issue. It's that you have so many other people who are going to also bid on that house as well. And it's not as simple as, hey, I can go in there, say, hey, I'll take this house, do you mind knocking 10,000 off, and put in a warranty, a home warranty for me, and I'll do it. It's not like that here. No one offers home warranties. No one's going to fix anything with their house, even if there's bad plumbing, bad electrical, nothing. They don't have to. Typically, they will tell you either it's cash only if the house is that raggedy. They will tell you cash only because they don't have to worry about any financing issues, or they'll tell you straight conventional because if there's anything else, then the banks are going to require a lot of fixing up, and either the person selling the house, obviously they're not going to fix anything, and the person buying the house may not be able to afford to do it. So you run into that issue. So not only do you have the issue of several people bidding on the house, you also have to deal with the fact that the whole cash only situation comes into play for a lot of houses. Some are very specific in terms of what they're wanting. And then you have the issue of the house price going way above what you're wanting. That's what happened with us. When the house price goes up higher and higher and higher and higher, then that's a problem. We paid, let me see, we probably paid 12 grand more than what they were asking for. So is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. So we paid about 12,000 more than what the house was listed as. And I didn't like that, to be honest with you, but I felt like if we don't move now on this house, which we really do love, then we're not going to get it. Thank goodness we did do that in terms of, doing the whole escalation clause to bid out the other folks. So that's the problem too, is if you don't have the ability to actually keep going up in terms of price, you're going to be priced out. One other thing I should say is people like to be very picky when it comes to homes, and I get it. However, this is a market where you can't really be too picky unless you're just rolling like that. If you're so picky to where you want a house that has all of the things that you see on TV, then you're not going to end up with a house. Because by the time you go and you look and try to find that perfect house, and then you go back to the one that you originally kind of liked, it's too late, the house is gone. So you have to be able to kind of have the idea that, hey, I can work with this, I can fix that, I can do that, and you have to make kind of a split decision here in this market, because otherwise you're never going to be able to find a home. This is the only market that I've lived in where I had to do that. You have to go with things sight unseen. This house, we didn't see it at first. And we were kind of interested in moving forward on it. There was another house that we didn't see, we were interested in moving forward on it. Our apartment, we didn't see that either, and we had to move forward on it just to rent it. A friend of ours that lived here had to go check out our apartment and tell us about it, because otherwise getting an apartment in Seattle was next to impossible. They rent out so quickly. So here is kind of the same way. It is very challenging now to get into a house and just go around with the realtor and say, yeah, I like this, I like that, unless you live here. Most people don't live here, so therefore they have to rely on pictures, Skype, different things that a realtor can show them and talk about the house and then move on it. It is a dangerous thing to do because you don't know what's behind the walls, what type of plumbing's going on, electrical, what the neighbors are like. True, but it's kind of the situation that you're in this area, and by this area I mean the entire Puget Sound region. The next place that's probably going to be hit pretty hard would be Olympia. Olympia in Thurston County is pretty far from Seattle, but I see that as being the next place where prices are going to go up relatively soon. They're already starting to climb, not nearly as fast as here in Tacoma, and definitely not nearly as fast as they are in Bellevue and Seattle, but they're starting to tick up. I would say, again, a good word of advice, and I'll talk more about this, is definitely make sure that you know exactly what you're looking for. Be willing to compromise. Make sure that you have enough cash in your pocket to really go up and down. Go for a house that is much less than what you're aiming for. You may get a pre-approval letter for $400,000, $500,000, but that doesn't mean that you have to go for a house that's $400,000. Houses that cost more obviously has a lot less competition typically than what you're dealing with when you have houses that are in the lower amounts. And be prepared to move as quickly as you possibly can. So that means obviously having all your financial stuff in order, all your paperwork in order, things like that. Having a great realtor, all of those things are really important. Anyhow, I will get off of here now. There's other things I want to talk about, but I will save that for another day. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.